The most rewarding way to travel Burma is not by bus or by boat, but on foot, accompanied by a local guide. This allows you to see the rural way of life lived by nearly 2/3 of Burma's people. Many have opened their homes to travellers, giving them a place to stay and an unforgettable glimpse into their world. Our guide was 30-year-old Thieng, born in the local town of Kalor, but educated in the capital Rangoon. He had also worked for the UN Clean Water and Sanitation Programme before the government kicked them out the country. Thieng's education was also brought to an abrupt halt when in 1996 the government ordered the closure of all universities. This action was taken because the generals feared the students were planning a rebellion, and an education gap lasting 4 years was the result. Thieng told us much about life in Burma, about its difficulties and its hardship. We heard stories of forced relocations and of the cancellation of banknotes, always without warning or compensation. We came across a new road and I remarked how unusual this was. Thieng replied that it was built to transport cement from a nearby factory, and the villagers living along it had to contribute 30,000 chat, a staggering sum for people who may earn a living selling brooms at 400 chat a time. After a long day's trekking, we finally arrived at our destination, the home of a family who welcomed travellers to stay for the night. By chance, they happened to be in the process of building a house for their son and his new wife. The whole family worked together, even the 82-year-old grandmother. Out here, everyone knows how to build a house from bamboo, a process which must be repeated every 5 years. I asked Thieng how long it would take to finish, and he said just 10 days. 10 days? I think it would take us several years. Yeah. It's incredible.
So they go into the forest and then cut the trees and then carry it and store here. And like this.
Wow. The simplicity of this way of life is very appealing, coming from the rush of a developed nation like Britain. The myriad concerns of 21st century life just do not exist here. No one is worrying about keeping their job, about rising fuel costs or energy bills. No one is angry about the number of immigrants entering the country, or about the national debt, or spending cuts and tax rises. People here live just as they have always done, working together to provide for their basic needs, rather than competing with each other as to who can best display their wealth and success. From one perspective, ours is the easy life, in every way superior to theirs. But for someone who sees the needless stress that arises as a result of our complex modern life, an alternative view presents itself. I left Britain disillusioned with the way life was changing around me. The visible deterioration of our society and living standards impressed on me a need for a complete change of attitude for life in the future. I came to Asia because I wanted to see a different way of life, one where culture and tradition was still strong, one where the manufactured values of capitalism had not yet replaced the human values that are for the good of all and not just for shareholders. Burma has surpassed all my expectations in this respect. The isolation imposed on the country by its rulers has made it one of the least developed countries in the world. But this policy has had the unintended benefit of preserving Burma's culture and shielding it from the homogenizing effect of globalization. Visitors to Burma may be dismayed to learn that it is often difficult to find a milkshake, a banana pancake, or even a can of Coca-Cola. But what is found is a nation of people who still treat foreigners as guests, who still follow the teachings of their ancestors, and who regard each other as members of the same family. Life in Britain offers an interesting comparison with life in Burma. In many ways, our country represents the polar opposite of theirs. In Britain, everyone has access to a high standard of healthcare, regardless of whether or not they can pay. Burma invests just 2% of its GDP in healthcare, the lowest of any country in the world. In Britain, welfare benefits are provided for the unemployed, the elderly, the disabled, and other disadvantaged members of society. In Burma, almost nothing is provided to anybody. Our prosperity has enabled us to overcome the struggle for survival and enjoy a level of comfort unprecedented in human history. Based on this fact, one might expect us to be among the happiest and most contented people in the world. But prosperity brings its own problems. Arguably, the biggest reason why we enjoy such a high standard of living is that capitalism has structured the world in order to give people with capital whatever they want. The problem is that the values of capitalism are directly opposed to the core human values that inspire peace and contentment. Capitalism is motivated by profit or the acquisition of capital alone. Anything that produces profit is to be overcome, even at the expense of human suffering. Because the harm of capitalism is hard to see, while its benefits are evident, this economic system has been allowed to restructure our society to a model based on consumption and motivated via sophisticated marketing by fear and greed. This model makes us want things we don't need, promotes a feeling of inadequacy and lack, and has been shown by various studies to increase poverty whilst concentrating wealth in the hands of the already wealthy. Because of trade embargoes, Burma is one of the few countries that exists in isolation to the rest of the world. Walking through the streets of Rangoon, one does not see a single McDonald's, Starbucks or any other pioneer of globalization. It is this isolation that qualifies Burma as a good comparison with the nation of Britain. In terms of goods and services, they have almost nothing and we have everything. But what is striking to a Westerner is the cultural emphasis placed on Buddhism and the wider community. In our own culture, religion has become a dirty word, and the concept of we has become far less important than the concept of I. But it is precisely this collective attitude which enables Burmese people to enjoy life under a ruthless and cruel regime. It is the moral guidance of Buddhist teaching which instills in people a sense of mutual care and respect in the face of so much neglect and poverty. There's a saying in Burma, when there's electricity from the line, life is good. When there's water from the pipe, life is good. How is it that people with so little are able to reach contentment when so few British people feel this way? Perhaps the time has come for us to stop and take a look at the way our society's going. Are living standards rising or falling? Are children being raised into responsible adults with good, strong morals? Does our economic system provide for everybody, or is it a system of few winners and many losers? We need to answer these questions for ourselves, and if the answers are not what we would wish for, we need to seek alternatives for the sake of our future. I believe the Burmese people can help us do this by reminding us what it is makes up a good society.